This podcast is an excellent way to improve your English. It's not the only way, but together we'll help you to find your way to a higher and more effective way to communicate in English. Yes, you guessed it. Today's podcast is all about some different uses of the word way. Welcome to
Aprender Inglés with Reza and Craig.
Hello, and if you are a new listener to this podcast, you are very, very welcome. And if you've come back to listen again, thank you very much. My name's Craig.
And my name's Reza.
And together we're going to help you using our 50 years plus of teaching experience. We'll help you improve your English and take it to the next level. How are you doing, Reza?
I'm doing very well. I'm feeling energetic, which isn't bad for someone who's recorded nearly 500 episodes of a podcast, eh? I've still got a bit of fight, a bit of go in me. What about you?
Yes, I know. Thank you for reminding me and the listeners that we are fast approaching episode 500. This is episode 496, and we were wondering what to do. So we were thinking maybe to ask you to send us your opinion on your favorite podcast episode so far. What episode has been the most enjoyable, the most useful for your English? Send us a message and we will include your voice message in episode 500. And we will also tell you what we think has been our most enjoyable episode so far. To send your voice messages, we'll also tell you at the end. But for now, it's speakpipe.com, speakpipe.com/Ingles podcast. That's where you need to go to record your message and let us know what your favorite podcast episode has been so far. Why are you smiling?
Craig doesn't like me smiling. I'm just smiling at the thought of 500 episodes.
Oh, right.
It's made me think, wow, that's a hell of an achievement. I'm proud of myself, I guess. I'm proud of us, both of us.
I'm proud of us. I'm proud of the milestones. So please help us celebrate in 4 episodes' time and let us know what your favorite episode has been. And speaking of voice messages, we have one from friend of the show, Carmen, who is preparing her C1 exam at the moment.
Hello, Reza and Craig. I'm Carmen. The first of all, I would like to thank you for the splendid work you do. I'm preparing my C1 exam, but I need to improve my speaking skill. I know the best option is to take English classes, but I don't have time. And for this reason, I have a question for you. Could you advise me how to improve my speaking on my own? For example, is to prepare monologues useful? Is there any artificial intelligence tool for that? Thank you very much.
Well, thank you, Carmen, for your lovely message. And it was very clear. You speak very well. I love the expression splendid work. That's a lovely expression. And thank you for your comments.
Yes, I also like the expression, which a lot of people get wrong, on my own. You said on my own. A lot of people get the preposition wrong. They say something else. On my own is quite right. You could also say by myself. People often mix up those two prepositions, on and by. You got it right. There's one thing you said, though, which I would change. Only one thing. You said to improve your speaking skill. It's more typical to use the plural, isn't it, Craig? For some reason, we all say my speaking skills, my writing skills. Always a plural, all right?
Yeah, usually plural, speaking skills. And we understand that you don't have much time. Let's see if we can help you with some advice. Obviously, we're going to recommend this podcast, and we have spoken about exam preparation in the past. For example, episode 494, Speak Like a Native, expressions to help you pass your speaking exam. If you haven't listened to that, Carmen, or anybody preparing for a speaking exam, go to inglespodcast.com/494. And we've done other podcasts on exam preparation, Reza, haven't we?
Yes, a little bit before that in episode 483. So you'll see a link in the show notes to inglespodcast.com/483. That was about tips and advice for Cambridge exams, the B2 first, the C1 Advanced, and the C2 Proficiency Speaking. So that's 483 for that one.
And to overcome shyness and hesitation when you're speaking, maybe it will be useful to listen to 447, inglespodcast.com/447. I think will also help you with your fluency and getting rid of those ahs, hesitation words. And preparing monologues is a good way to practice, Carmen. I'm sure you've always got your mobile phone with you, so you could make a few notes, some bullet points, and then speak for a minute by yourself as you will be doing in the C1 exam. That's a very, very good way to practice. And then if you're not happy with your recording, do it again, try and improve every time. And why not send us another message? That's also good practice because it's a realistic task. You're sending us a message, we'll play it in the podcast, we'll comment on it. If a task is a real-world, realistic task, it's more motivating and there's a bigger reason for you to do it.
Another thing you could do is listen to the episode that Craig recorded with Haydar Shemish. That's episode 474. So, as you know, you write inglespodcast.com/ and the number of the episode, 474. She spoke about shadowing or echoing. Craig, you spoke to her, so it's probably better if you explain what that episode was about.
Yes, it's very simple. You find your favorite actor or actress on YouTube, and Hadar has many examples of that on her YouTube channel. And you just take a very short piece of dialogue, monologue, and you repeat it after the person who is speaking, after the native speaker. Don't try to do too much at once. You just want to focus on the vowel sounds of the individual words. You want to focus on the linking sounds when consonants and vowels link together. You want to focus on the weak forms, the words that are not stressed in English. And doing that for 10 or 15 minutes every day will really improve your pronunciation and the way you sound. You'll be sounding more like a native speaker and you'll be more understandable if your pronunciation isn't very accurate.
Craig, if anybody wants to experiment with anything a bit more technological, have you got any good tips?
I've got 2 tips. One tip is to make sure your voice to text is in English. Voice to text is where you're speaking into your mobile phone, for example, and automatically it's typing the words you're saying. And on your computer also. Now, if you're not pronouncing correctly, then it's not going to type what you say. So maybe you need to think, go back, try again, pronounce the words a different way so that the application understands your English. That's a very powerful way of improving your pronunciation because it's recognizing the sounds you're making.
Yes, and I have a tip for that from some native-speaking friends of mine who've had tricky experiences. Don't put on a very heavy Scottish accent if you do that, because you might find that the app doesn't understand you at all. Scottish people often report of their frustration at not being understood by these voice-to-text apps because the app just doesn't get that really unusual and lovely and tricky Scottish accent.
Wasn't there a funny sketch where someone was speaking in Scottish inside an elevator and they put subtitles? He said, "Why are you putting subtitles? I'm speaking English." And of course, AI is changing constantly. There are always new websites and applications that you can use to practice your English. But one that I have tried and I like very, very much is called talkpal.ai. talkpal.ai. There's a link in the show notes for this episode, which is inglespodcast.com/496. So go there to see all of the links that we're mentioning. And TalkPal is free, I believe, for up to 15 minutes per day, which should be more than enough for most people. And it's just like talking to a person. You start a conversation, They will ask questions, or they know that the AI program will ask questions, but it really does sound like a real person that you're talking to, and you just have a conversation with AI. It's very, very powerful and very, very effective.
Yes, for me, this sounds like a really, really good use of AI, and I highly recommend it. Much, much better than those people who only use AI to get them to write the essay that they have to do for their homework for their English teacher. That's not such a good use of AI. You don't fool me. I've had a few students and they've been doing it recently. How is it that the worst in the class, who's a low B1, has turned in a top of the range C2 perfect essay? AI. We know about that. Forget about that. Use AI for what Craig suggests to improve your speaking. That's a good use of AI.
Are you seeing more and more students use AI to write for you in English?
I cannot say conclusively that that is the case, but I can say conclusively that a lot of my very weakest students are turning in writing tasks far above their normal level. That I can say. I'm suspicious.
And have you considered marking it and correcting it with an AI program and sending it straight back?
That's what I should do, shouldn't I? I'll do that.
There you go. Now, different uses of the word way. In episode 492, we spoke about St. James's Way. And there are many, many, many ways to use the word way in English, as Frank Sinatra sang, didn't he, Reza? You going to do it, or shall I?
Who doesn't? I did it my way.
I did it my way, and now the end is near. Have you ever been so drunk that you could not find your way home?
I think I told you a story about great difficulty I had.
I remember that story, yes.
It wasn't that I couldn't find my way. I couldn't find a means of transport, but it was to do with alcohol. Had my judgment not been clouded by alcohol, I think I could have found my way home more easily. So it's partly true for me. What about you?
And if I remember that story, it was a long way from where you were drinking in the pub to your house. So another expression with way, it's a long way. For example, it's a long way from here to the city centre. But it's not only used for distance, is it? You can also have a long way to go to finish a project, for example. Or we can say that we've come a long way since episode 1 of the podcast.
Yes, you'll find that the word way, as Craig says, is used just as much metaphorically as physically. It could be a physical way, a path, a road, or it could be a direction or progress in an abstract way.
One way to use way that's not abstract is asking the way if you're lost. Let's say, for example, you're looking for the train station. You stop somebody in the street and you say, "Excuse me, do you know the way to the station? Do you know the way?"
And while you're there on the street asking for directions, you'd better pay attention to whether the street is a one-way street or a two-way street. So as you can probably guess, a one-way street is a street which has traffic only traveling in one direction, all in the same direction. The majority of streets are two-way streets where you have traffic traveling in both directions.
And that can also be used idiomatically, can't it? You can say that collaboration is a two-way street. You need to collaborate on both sides. It's a two-way street. Now, any fans of The Blacklist out there, which is a lovely TV series that Reza and I are quite interested in at the moment, will know that it's FBI. And they often bring suspects into a room that has a two-way mirror. What's a two-way mirror, Reza?
So it's not a normal mirror. A two-way mirror is one where you can see through it from one side to the other as if it were a piece of glass. So the suspect being interrogated by the FBI, they can only see a reflection of themselves as if it were a normal mirror, and that's it. But the FBI agents outside the room are looking in and they can see what's happening inside because it's a two-way mirror. It's not a normal mirror. For them, it's just like a piece of glass for those on the outside.
There's more than one way to solve a problem. So if there are various ways to do something, you could use way in that way. There's more than one way to solve this problem.
Hopefully, you will like the phrase, he found a way to improve his spoken English. He found a way. He managed to do it. Maybe it wasn't hard, but he found a way. He did it.
He found a way to improve his spoken English. Speaking of effective ways to improve your spoken English, we have 2 ways that we can suggest, don't we, Reza? There's your way and there's my way.
Yes, true.
What's your way of helping people with their English?
Well, I think your way is equally good, if not better, in fact. But because of circumstances, my way is by offering classes one-to-one online. The advantage of that is that it's very flexible. The student, you, listener, potential student, can decide when and what we study and your objectives. But Craig's way is also good. Can you tell the listeners a little bit about your way, please?
Yes, there's more than one way to improve your spoken English, and we've just mentioned a few to Carmen, who's practicing for her exam. And my way is to get a group of lovely people together on Zoom and have very focused discussion lessons where the object is to work on your fluency, your pronunciation, and also your confidence. If you don't normally have the opportunity to speak and communicate in English, then this is a group of people that are very motivated to do it. And with me, we speak a lot when we meet on Zoom. So if you'd like more information, send me an email. You can reach me, Craig, Craig, at inglespodcast.com. Did you mention your email?
I didn't. I'll mention it now. I'll plug myself. I'll give myself some self-advertisement. It's belfastreza@gmail.com. Craig, I think you'd better sit down. You're not going to like this. There's no easy way to break the news, but I've eaten the last biscuit. There are none left.
I don't believe you. You've never eaten the last of anything. You always leave one on the plate. Really? You've eaten all the biscuits?
I have. Just as well he was sitting down. Otherwise, I think he might have collapsed, because that was not easy for me to break that news to Craig. It wasn't. There's no easy way to tell Craig that we're out of biscuits. It's never something he's going to like to hear.
And that's another use of way. No easy way to do something. There's no easy way to say this, but you need to start using deodorant. I'm not talking to you, Reza. That's an example. How did you get here today? What's your preferred way of coming here?
Well, actually, walking is not my preferred way of getting here today. But funnily enough, I did get here today walking because the marathon's on in Valencia. So normally my preferred way of getting here would be by bus, but the buses were disrupted. So in fact, the way I got here was on foot today.
So we could say that the marathon in Valencia got in your way.
Very good. It got in my way. It was an obstacle. It was something which was inconvenient for me.
And I'm sure you noticed as you were walking around the street with the marathon happening and going on, I'm sure you noticed there were some people dressed in a very unique way. So you can be dressed in a special way, in a unique way. You can sip your tea in a very unique way, as the song says, the way you sip your tea, the way you brush your hair, la 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 la. So in a different way, the way you do things.
Listeners, today we'll be recording 3 episodes because that's the way things have always been done with the podcast. We get together every 3 or 4 weeks, and it gives us the chance to record 3, usually, occasionally 2, occasionally 4, but usually 3 podcasts are recorded. After that, we're a bit too tired. And that way, Craig can release them weekly. He's already got them recorded. That's the way things have always been done in this podcast. And it seems to work, doesn't it, Craig?
Yeah, that's the way we roll. If you say that that's the way I roll or that's the way we roll, that means that's the way we do things. That's our tendency. That's the way we roll. Now, you can have a way with words as well, which means it's the words you use for special effect. You can also have a way with men or a way with women, which means that you're very amicable with the opposite sex. You have a way with people. That's a positive thing.
Would you say you have a way with women, Craig?
No, I don't think so.
In your younger days?
No, not even in my younger days. Not in any days. No.
I only do in my dreams, but in reality, no.
No way, which means absolutely not. No way.
In my dreams is the only way that I'm successful with women, in fact.
Reza, have you found a good way to make extra money?
Depends what you mean by extra money. I'll tell you what isn't a good way, recording podcasts. There's absolutely no money in it. But you know what? It is a way of feeling a lot of satisfaction. But money? No. What about you?
No, I haven't, unfortunately. I haven't found a very good way to make a lot of money, but I'm not giving up yet. There must be a way. If you tell someone to get out of the way, then they are interfering with you. They are maybe in the middle of the street. You need to walk, and there's somebody standing there. Say, excuse me, can you get out of the way? Can you move, please? Get out of the way. I can't move here.
Now, do you remember, listeners, I said a minute ago that I ended up walking to Craig's house today. It's quite far away. He had warned me yesterday that there would be severe disruption because of the marathon. And I thought, yeah, there'll be a bit of disruption, but it won't be that bad. Well, Craig was right. And I learned that the hard way because I ended up having to walk most of the way. So I should have just trusted him right from the start that it was going to be really difficult, not just quite difficult. I learned the hard way. Learning the hard way is because it happened to you, and now you know better. Thanks for the warning, Craig, and next time I will pay more attention.
In a big way means very much so. For example, he decided to dedicate his life to his music. So he sold his house, he sold his car, he gave up his boring 9-to-5 job, and he committed himself to his musical career in a big way. In a big way.
To pave the way is a nice turn of phrase, a nice expression. If someone paves the way, can you imagine there's like a piece of land with no pavement on it, nowhere to walk? If somebody puts down a pavement, then now everybody can walk there. So metaphorically, to pave the way, someone is the first person to do something really important, which allows everybody after them to do it. If you're very innovative, very original, and you do something really important for the first time, you've paved the way. Now everybody after you can do it.
To lead the way means you're going first and you show people where they need to go. Let's imagine you visit a client in an office. You have no idea where the office is, and maybe the receptionist says, oh, let me take you to where Mr. Smith, his office is. And you say, okay, please lead the way. You go first. You show me the way I need to go. Please lead the way. After you.
Now, Craig, I can't remember if it was you or if it was me, because we're both chocoholics. But either way, I've got to tell you, there's no chocolate left either, as well as biscuits. I don't know if it was you or me who ate the last bit. Either way, there's no chocolate. So either way means it doesn't really matter if it's option A or option B. The result is the same. We got no chocolate. I don't know if I ate the last bit or Craig, but either way, I'm afraid that's the end of the chocolate.
No way, man. That's depressing.
In a way, Craig, I'm happy there's no chocolate left because we do need to lose weight. You have to agree, don't we?
I think we do, yes.
So in a way, that bad news is good for us, really. I mean, we shouldn't eat so much chocolate. So in a way, although I'm not 100% happy about it, but to some extent, I am pleased in a way. I'll lose some weight because there's no chocolate.
I can remember way back when I had quite a fit-looking figure. Way back when is a long, long time ago. I remember way back when I had a better waistline.
Now, sorry to keep going back to my misfortune today, but I've got another expression which goes with it. Remember, I said that there was disruption to the buses. So to get to Craig's house today, I had to go the long way round. It was not a direct route. It was much more complicated and indirect than I thought. I had to go the long way around. We also say to go the long way home. It's a very common expression. So instead of taking a direct way home, you go a longer way, perhaps because you want to walk, perhaps because it's more scenic. So go the long way around and go the long way home are two common expressions with way.
If you want to put something in the opposite direction or in the opposite order, you can say the other way around. Let's say, for example, Reza puts on his podcasting t-shirt, but the podcast, Inglés podcast, is at the back, not at the front. I'll say, hey, Reza, the other way around. Take off your t-shirt and put it on the other way around. Change the direction of it in the opposite direction, the other way around.
Yes, in case you're wondering, we often do wear our English podcast t-shirts when we're recording. Not always, though. There's not a strict uniform code, but we do like to.
It's not a dress code for podcasters.
Because no way, man. I mean, who's going to see us? The whole point is we don't want you to see us because we're overweight and getting really old. That's why we podcast. That's why we're not YouTubers.
We've got the perfect faces for podcasting. Now let's look at some idioms and expressions with the word way. We mentioned one earlier when I said, no way, you ate the last chocolate biscuit. So that's an expression of disbelief. I don't know if I've told you, Reza, but I've decided to sell my flat and sell my car and join a Buddhist monastery.
No way.
Yeah, in Tibet.
Oof, I didn't expect that. In the way is another common expression. If something is blocking or obstructing. For example, imagine there's a cop chase. Yeah, perhaps Craig and I really have been watching too much Blacklist, but the cops are chasing after the criminal, and there's always that poor innocent civilian who's in the way. You're in the way. Get out of the way. So if someone is in the way, you want them to get out of the way. So if they're in the way, they're blocking or obstructing. It could be physical or it could be metaphorical as well. It could be like, oh, we have a problem, but there's a lot of bureaucracy to open our new company office in Valencia. It's in the way. We got the money, but the bureaucracy is in the way. So it can be an abstract obstruction as well.
By the way, Reza, I saw our friend and ex-colleague Mike last week.
Oh, how was he?
He's doing really well and he sends his regards. Did you notice I used by the way there? So you can use by the way to introduce a topic that's not directly connected to what you're talking about. So it's a sequence. So it takes you from one theme of conversation to another theme of conversation. By the way.
Craig, if a person were to say to you that they think your favorite type of biscuit is a rich tea, are they close? What would you say?
No, they're way off. Or I could also say way out, which means far from correct or far from accurate. That's not true. My favorite biscuit is, of course, a chocolate digestive.
Dark or milk?
Dark. Has to be dark.
Just wanted to clarify that. Yeah, you're not going soft.
Another expression with way is it cuts both ways. It cuts both ways, which means the conditions apply to both sides or both parties, both groups of people. Can you think of an example, Reza, with it cuts both ways?
Yes, a marriage. Whenever you take your marriage vows, your promises to your new husband or wife, you say that you will honor and obey them. But they have to say the same to you. They're also going to honor and obey you. It cuts both ways. It's not just all the obligation or all the benefit for you. It's also for the other party. It cuts both ways. Whatever you have to do or receive, they have to do or receive.
Reza, if you said to me one day, Craig, I'd like to give up teaching and only do the podcast, I would say, okay, I'm with you all the way. So all the way means completely. I'm with you all the way.
I would also say, way to go.
Way to go, Craig.
So that's an expression of praise. Like you've done well. That's a good decision. I think you're doing things well, or you've been successful.
We've recently heard from friend of the show, Mamin, who has passed her exam. She'll be appearing, I think, on next week's podcast. So way to go, Mamin. If you pass an exam, if there's something that you need to be congratulated on, say, oh, way to go, way to go.
For most of you, I'm sure you're doing very well, but you still have a way to go, or we could even say a long way to go. That means there's still some progress needed. You're going in the right direction, but there's a way to go, or there's a long way to go.
Another expression is the only way to go. Now, from traveling from Valencia to Madrid or Barcelona, some people prefer to drive, that's fine. Some people prefer to fly, that's also fine. But as far as I'm concerned, the only way to go is by the fast train. You can relax, it's not too expensive, and you can even sleep on the train and you get there refreshed and ready to enjoy the city. So as far as I'm concerned, the train is the only way to go.
Imagine you're negotiating what you're going to do with your partner, your husband, your wife, and you'd really like to just take it easy, stay at home, maybe order a takeaway pizza. And you say this to your partner and they say, oh, no, I think we should be a lot more active. Let's go out and have a walk in the park. And you say, but it's freezing. And we went for a walk in the park yesterday. Well, we go there every week. I haven't had a pizza in ages. Let's just stay home and have a pizza. And your partner insists, says, no, we're going to the park. So you eventually give in. You say, okay, have it your way. You're going to do what they want. But you're not really happy about it. You'll accommodate their preference, but you're perhaps not 100% happy, and you say, have it your way.
Yeah, it's kind of reluctantly agreeing, isn't it? Okay, have it your way. We'll do what you want this time. Now, next week, we have an interesting topic that we haven't really spoken about before, and that's polyamory and swingers. To swing is a verb that has more than one meaning, and if you swing both ways, that is a way of saying that you may be bisexual. So to swing both ways, to enjoy sex with men and with women, you're swinging both ways. And join us next week for more vocabulary on this unusual topic.
One thing is sex, another thing is love. And the way to someone's heart is through their stomach, some people say. So very often you hear the words, the way to a man's heart or the way to a woman's heart is through his or her stomach. In my case, I have to admit it's true. I do tend to feel great affection for people close to me who are good cooks. I admit it. What about you, Craig?
Yes, definitely. The way to my heart is definitely through my stomach and through my mouth, but definitely good food is makes me feel good, makes me feel very good.
But Craig, I think we could both lose weight because where there's a will, there's a way. Are you prepared to go on a diet if I go on one as well? Will you?
Possibly. Where there's a will, there's a way, Reza said, which means if you have a desire to do something, then you can achieve it, you can do it. If you really want to achieve it, then you will. Where there's a will, there's a way. I know it's difficult to get to C1 or C2 level in English, but if you really want to get there, just keep practicing, keep studying, because where there's a will, there's a way.
The way the cookie crumbles is a nice little saying. You'll hear it a lot. And it just means that you accept the outcome, the result, the consequences of something because, that's life. There's nothing you can do about it. Can you imagine when you pick up a biscuit, you don't know how it's going to crumble. And Craig and I have picked up a lot of biscuits or cookies in our time. You don't exactly know how the little bits are going to fall off. Sometimes a big bit falls off, sometimes a little bit. Who knows what's going to happen? The way the cookie crumbles, life will happen and you don't really know until it's happened what's going to happen.
It's like fate, isn't it? That's fate, that's destiny, that's the way the cookie crumbles. Now, if you have a problem or some kind of obstacle in your life, then you need to overcome it. And to overcome an obstacle, you can say to find a way around. So yes, this is a problem. I don't know what we can do, but we really need to try to find a way around so that we can succeed. So to find a way around means to overcome an obstacle.
Now, one thing that will never happen to Craig or me is that we will be in the family way because we can't. It means to be pregnant. So if a woman is in the family way, specifically to be in the family way, it's a perhaps old-fashioned colloquial way of saying pregnant. Hey, are you in the family way? So it's kind of a funny, light-hearted way of saying to be pregnant.
Now, sadly, there have been wars and people killing one another for thousands and thousands of years. And as we're recording this podcast, there are unfortunately wars going on in many different places because it's the way of the world, we can say. The way of the world, which means it's reality, it's common behavior. That's the human condition, the human nature is to fight over territory and other things. It's the way of the world.
One thing we hope, though, is that none of our listeners are in harm's way. We hope you're not in some kind of dangerous situation. We hope you're not in some conflict area. If you are, well, our thoughts are with you. I hope everything goes well. So you should try to avoid being in harm's way, in a dangerous situation.
Quite a religious saying with the word way, although it is sometimes used sarcastically, is the Lord works in mysterious ways, the Lord being God. And if something unfortunate happens, you can always say, yes, I know, but the Lord works in mysterious ways. Can you think of an example?
Yes, I've heard it more sarcastically than seriously, though I have heard both. It's the sort of thing that a religious person might say seriously, particularly a priest or a minister. But you imagine, I bought 20 lottery tickets and I didn't get anything. And I buy 20 lottery tickets every year. But my friend, Pete, he never buys lottery tickets. He bought one. He won £2 million. And I say, I can't, you win £2 million and nothing. You say, the Lord works in mysterious ways.
Or maybe you bought a lottery ticket that actually did win, but by mistake you'd put it in the washing machine or thrown it away and you don't know where it is. Your wife would say, yeah, the Lord works in mysterious ways. Bad luck, my son. You can go your separate ways from somebody, which means to go in different directions. That could be physically, it could be metaphorically. If you end a relationship, you can say, yes, unfortunately, I broke up with my partner 2 months ago and we went our separate ways. We separated, we divided.
Now, listeners, I'm afraid it's time for us to go our separate ways. Just for now, we're not ending our relationship. We're merely leaving you, but we'll be back. But don't forget that you should practice your English. Remember, we're nearly at episode 500, so don't forget to let us know what your favorite podcast episode has been so far. You could send us a voice message and let us know. Have a look in the show notes. The link's there. It's speakpipe.com/Ingles podcast, where you can record your voice for up to 90 seconds.
Yes, that's the way to send us a message. And the way to write to us is to send emails to me, Craig, Craig, @inglespodcast.com, or to Reza, and his address is belfastreza@gmail.com. And those two email addresses are also how to contact us if you're interested in working with us to improve your English.
By the way, this podcast is sponsored in part by mansioningles.com. Why not visit their online store? The address for that is store.mansioningles.net. And there you can find a range of useful products to help you further improve your English and go all the way to the top.
Now, we can't leave without thanking our lovely supporters on Patreon. So thank you very much for helping this podcast. And you too can join our Patreon program for as little as $1.50 per month. And you get instant access to the transcriptions of this podcast so that you will never lose your way and you can follow every word that we say. Go to patreon.com/Inglés podcast. Links to everything we've mentioned are in the show notes at inglespodcast.com/496. Reza, who are our most recent sponsors?
They are Abel, Pedro Carrillo, José María Rodríguez, Juan Miguel Marabel González, Miguel M.R., Raquel Muñoz Mayada, Aurora, and Alejandro, who very kindly has donated more than the minimum. Thanks very much to you and all our Patreon supporters.
Many, many thanks. As we mentioned before, next week we will be speaking about polyamory and swingers. So join us for that. And if you enjoyed this podcast, please tell someone about it so that more people can listen. Until next time, thank you so much for listening. Have a wonderful week. It's goodbye from Reza.
And it's goodbye from Craig.
The music in this podcast is by Pips. The track is called See You Later.